How was your pee break?
My pee break.
It might flash you on TikTok.
Random, baby.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. Quite an intro.
Let's address the elephant in the room. That's not the elephant in the room. There's no elephant. Nobody cares.
I too am a thought criminal. Good. Well, I like you already.
Does this look like a girl who's joking around?
No.
Around? But how much do you actually understand money? Especially the new wave.
Beauty or intelligence? When you unleash both, it is men's kryptonite. Welcome to Talk to Me, Taylor. What is up, my thought criminals? What did you think I was just gonna ghost you and leave you hanging? Like 98% of young American men? Not that US hockey team, though. Oh, they shoot, they score. We're gonna get to that. No. We are back tonight, and I'm really excited for this episode because it was a little bit impromptu. It was birthed out of, a little bit of existential dread and then a little flicker of inspiration. Let me explain. And it really needs to be talked about because no one else is talking about it. What is up, Jim Bob? It's so good to see you. How are you? This is going to be a fun ep, so stick around, if you know what's good for you. Don't take any long trips. Name that movie. So, all right, I'm going to be real with you guys. I almost wasn't going to do an episode tonight because you may have been picking up what I'm putting down, like these little ChatGPT newspapers, like these, like this, whatever, in that I'm just kind of over everything and I'm kind of bored with everything and everyone. Everybody recycling opinions and hot takes. I'm just kind of bored with it all. And so I was just like, I am fucking over it. So this is what I did. I actually was going to ghost on you guys like a millennial man. I'm not going to lie. So I took myself to a bougie ass lunch, and that's where, like the strike of a pen, the inspiration hit. Cause I'm like taking in, as usual, everything going on, looking big picture, looking, like Kamala Harris would say, in the context of which we exist, and like what happened before and currently and what will happen. And I thought, wow, there is something, just sitting right on all of our faces. Maybe like your weekend, maybe like your Saturday night, I don't know, that everybody wants, and yet nobody talks about. Like, it may seem so obvious. And that's when, I was sitting in Restoration Hardware, like I had no business, but all the audacity, ordering a $35, salad, when bam, it hit me. And I was like, right. We throw this word around all the time, the C word. And yet it's something that I don't think that we think enough about. And it's kind of like sex in that it's so primal and drives us as humans, and moreover, power dynamics. I thought, wow, this is literally right in front of our faces. Like the power struggle surrounds, and is really predicated on this thing, and nobody says it out loud. Do we have any guesses? Any guesses in the class on what the C word is tonight? Any guesses? It is the word cool. I know. You're thinking, Taylor, this is like the kindergarten Kamala Harris Mad Libs nobody asked for. No. Because when you think about it, right? So much of history, of culture, religion, if you will, and even in today's world, pop culture, politics, tech, even sports. Think about it, guys. It is all kind of low key, but high key driven around what and who is cool. And we are seeing it come to the surface now, like in the power dynamic struggle that is never ending. And when you think about it from this lens, it's actually kind of entertaining to watch it play out and to see how it will further play out. Like a goddamn US Olympic winning hockey team, baby. All right, before we get to that, let's hit it and quit it first. My domain and my, background, pop culture. right? And also, like, something to think about as we, straight up dive into this, like Leah Thomas could fucking never, is how, they always said how pop culture, entertainment, Hollywood drove politics, right? Because it's cool. It was cool. It's a cool kids. And now when you think about it, not only has it become synonymous, but it's also kind of like the other way around. And same thing with tech, right? I always say, like, how these tech lords are like the new daddies. Like, who would have thought, Steve Jobs in his grave with his turtleneck, he's like, I fucking told y'all. Like, Zuck with a zip up hoodie, or Elon Musk, with like a dad t-shirt with dad bod, in a cabinet meeting. I mean, they're like the new daddies. And again, like politics too, right? How now politics drives pop culture. And and we're hitting and quitting all kinds of shit. Like, literally, just call us a fraternity, because we're hitting and quitting all types of ass tonight. Even how politics drove the splintering of Super Bowls. It's a super, actually, kind of, though, depending on what kind of like vortex you're living in. But the Super Bowl halftime, right? Like, if it's like giving Kid Rock, or if it's giving Bad Bunny, like fixing your power line. So, okay. So pop culture, let's hit this. So Wuthering Heights, because Jacob Elordi like definitely hit it. Even though that shit was depressing. But, and I'm not gonna get in the weeds. I did see it to A, see what the hype was about, and B, I told you guys, I think in the last episode, I've been catching up on current and relevant pop culture to see, what the kids are talk about being cool. And I was like, why is everything like Slit My Wrist Central? Like, why is everything depressing as fuck? So I was like, I don't know, maybe Wuthering Heights will like make me feel like something of existence. And I didn't know anything about the story. Truthfully, I'd never read the book. So I went into it blind, thankfully not like Dakota Johnson in 50 Shades of Grey, because this thankfully was not like a a soap. I just combined two words. So Kamala, how you like me now, bitch, watch and learn. I combined soapy and cheesy, but I was thankful that Wuthering Heights was not 50 Shades of Grey, BDSM, cheesy. Like, don't even get me started on that travesty. So I went into it blind. And a lot of thoughts. I hit it on my IG story. But what was fascinating was to really do a deep dive and research on how much this filmmaker, who she's I think she's this British woman, and she did other stuff. You can see how much I did my research. I'm like, she did the thing. I'm really sounding like Joe Biden. The thing about that movie she made that one time. No, but she wrote and directed this, right? And I really learned how it was such a kind of a drastic departure from the classic literature. And I did see people very critical, very, traditionalists, who were like, lady, you should have just, what's up, Viking Hotep, chin chin to you. Happy Monday. Love the cheers. Let's do it. How she should have basically, criticism said she should have just said that this was like a combo of Romeo and Juliet and Frankenstein, and just named it something else, right? So how she took her interpretation from the original source. My takeaway was like, look, this shit is like trauma bonding 101, these two. And, it's sort of, it's interesting. My quick hot take, I liked how it showed how people are very complicated, and the complexity, and how you kind of want to root for them in their like quote unquote love story, even though it's just really trauma bonding, but they're also just like shitty fucking narcissistic selfish people. So you're like, they're also awful. But at the same time, it also felt kind of like superficial and tropey, and like didn't get into things as much as it could. But whatever, I digress. It's a fun watch. It's beautifully like shot, and like the visuals are beautiful. All that shit is good. Like, why not? Again, like maybe just go and feel something. But again, what made this quote unquote cool? Okay, because again, we're gonna discover tonight, like, who decides what's cool? Because now it's all mixed, right? Is it the youth? Is it, like, in our case, I'm not for better or worse, like the Gen Zers, right? And think decade to decade, Now, again, sadly, for better or worse, when it used to be opposite, it's like politics determines what's cool. So in the case of Wuthering Heights, the fact that it was, a departure, she uses Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. like two hot young Hollywood starlets, and uses like people didn't like the clash of the culture in that, it's this very Victorian, film and the aesthetic and the whole thing. And even when it was written, right, iconically, I don't know if iconically is a word. Somebody, I don't know what is happening with my brain, but you know what? I wasn't even going to do this up to begin with. So let's just be glad we're fucking here with somebody like Charlie XCX coming in and doing the soundtrack. Like people were like, again, like me at Restoration Hardware an hour ago having lunch that I couldn't afford, people being like, what business does she have doing the soundtrack? Now, I personally thought it was what one would say cool. I was like, all right, I dig it. Again, it's kind of this like modern twist on a classic story. All of that to say, and we're going to see tonight, because this show is the end all be all to everything. I'm like, we are going to discover. So everyone fuck right off with your thesis. No. And your dissertations is, what is cool is obviously subjective, right? So again, if it's like the young kids, if it's this, if it's that, I even appreciated, and the filmmaker talked about how she even named the film Wuthering Heights, but in quotes, because it wasn't an exact interpretation. So with all of that to say, again, it's subjective, and that is what makes art and living in a free society in a democracy so exciting. It's like we can have the clash of opinions, and in Fuego Pyramid 7, I love it, and bring different things to the table. Now, it will be interesting to see how this plays out, because these people did all the, for all intents and purposes, cool stuff, like the Vogue, the Vanity Fairs, like the hot, PR, and like, are they cheating? And they're both sexy and all that. Yet all we're seeing, like, is the gas still gonna be left in the tank? You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes around to award season, like how much, life is there in this? Because then I put it up against another current film that I unwillingly and sadly skimmed, thankfully, but one battle after another with Leo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor, that whole thing. Which, as I laid out in my last episode, like spare yourself the 2.5 hours you will never get back. Like the late Eric Dane wishes you would. Okay, spare yourself. Use that time, as he would say so beautifully and devastatingly, toward other things. Okay. But has that movie, for example, like again, no plot, was just literal. It was like bingo of performative virtue signal topics out of Hollywood. Like, you want to talk about Mad Libs? It was literally like, okay, this, and we're going to put it together with no plot, and now it's going to get all the fucking awards. Like, I literally turned to Rob, I told you guys, and I was like, who decided that this was a good idea to write this, to green light it? Like Leo DiCaprio, who can do anything. And he was like, this is a good idea. But we also said, and Rob and I both have very, extensive and intimate backgrounds in Hollywood working with these people. And we were like, we looked at each other, we're like, that they were like, this is cool. Like, this is so edgy and cool, because it's sort of like Leo DiCaprio plays this lost, they're like anarchists, but they're rebels, and they're with a cause, but they're out without a cause. Like, and Rob turned to me, he's like, there's nothing more annoying than like an anarchist rebel without a cause, right? So that kind of captures it. But again, that they thought it was like probably so cool and edgy. So I don't know, at the end of this, are we getting to like the counterculture is what's really cool? Just something to think about. Okay, so sports. Also, I know a lot of us in this chat, we may have backgrounds in media, maybe an interest in Hollywood, pop culture, celebrity interviews is what maybe brought you to, this corner of the web to begin with. Politics, obviously, a lot of you guys are into. But let's not overlook sports when it comes to what sets the pulse and the tone on being cool. My nipples are hard right now thinking about it, because I'm just thinking about Tom Brady, and not just how hot he is, but his tenacity and integrity on and off the field. Like, what a champion is, baby. What a winner is. Like, we all are. But who will win the game of cool in sports? So you may have seen by now, unless you are in a coma, like Sleeping Goddamn Beauty herself And, if you're a man in a coma, you may be in luck because you can bet your bottom dollar that Disney is going to make a feminist version of this where the girl kisses a sleeping guy any minute. So don't worry. But if you haven't seen the viral videos of the U.S. hockey team winning in the Olympics, and what made this, like, honestly, you talk about a fairy tale that you can't even write, is that it was on the exact same day, February 22nd, of the legendary and historic event that the movie Miracle on Ice is based on, when the U.S. Hosted the Olympics, and the U.S. hockey team was the underdogs, and they beat the Soviet Union, which, the Soviet Union was favored, and it was an upset no one saw coming because they were the underdogs and they won 4-3, right? So this happened on the exact same day. And the way that it went down, like, we saw, what's his name? Jack Hughes, like, there's pictures of him everywhere, like losing a teeth and his bloody teeth, and he's all in the game, and he's like, for the USA. But what's really gaining steam, and what is really getting, those, hockey sticks right up people's a-holes, for the uptight ones, is the video of Trump calling the team after the fact, like literally doing jumping jacks. And he's like, I'm going to invite you guys to the State of the Union. It actually was like really authentic. And in my opinion, cool. And you guys know I have mixed feelings about Trump because I have a working brain. And I was like, right, this is so authentic. He's like, I'm inviting you guys to the State of the Union, and you're going to remember this for the next 50 years. And I'm so proud, and this and that, right? But on top of it, Kash Patel being there, the director of the FBI, and just being human and not being a political robot, like, God forbid. So he's all excited, and he's on speaker with the team, and they're just laughing. And, and one of the guys, you can hear one of the hockey players in the back. He's like, okay, Don, like, whatever you say, as if they're best friends. And then Don, if you will, is like, and this is all on speakerphone, right? With the team right there, literally in the locker room. And he's like, Kash, arrange for them to come, and, all this and that. And here's Kash Patel. He's like, I fucking will. I'm fucking on it, or whatever he says. And I just was like, wow, this is so authentic. We're never used to seeing that with high profile people, especially with politics, who are like literal robots. And I also was like, wow, like, what a testament to Trump. It's so like peeling back the curtain of this is how his team talks to him. It's like real life. It's not this like fake stick up your butt, like, yes, sir. It's like, I fucking will, right? And I was like, I love that. Like, that's what I want to foster, nurture with the people around me and who I work with. And I was like, wow, like, how telling of how they operate, and how, authentic it really is, right? That you could like talk to the president or your boss that way. And I was like, wow, can you only imagine like what goes on behind the scenes? So, it's really controversial because it's like, oh, the FBI director acting like this. And there's also, compounded with this is a video of Kash Patel like chugging a beer and spraying a beer in the locker room. And it's like, again, God forbid the guy is human. Like, oh my God, like, we have people who have pulses and blink, like, running our government. I don't know. I just can't believe it, right? So of course you're going to have people with their panties in a wad being like, this is so unprofessional. And I'm going to be so real with you guys. And this kind of like brings me to where I'm going to get at in the end with all of this. But I wouldn't, and I mean this, I wouldn't give a shit if this was coming from, AOC or Ilhan Omar or Joe Biden himself, okay? Like, after wiping his diaper, because I would be like, I can appreciate that this is so real. Their politics may be shit. I may totally disagree. But I can appreciate that this is so not fake, and that this is so real, and that it's just like genuine, like, human expression. What do you know? Because I think that's a big, what helps me at least. And I think the general public, like, let's give everybody a little bit of credit, decipher cool and not, which is like so real versus fake and performative, right? So if you have any glimmer of like a human pulse, it's like you can recognize, okay. And again, if it's my political opposite, if it's an adversary, someone I don't even agree with, like, I could still appreciate like a human moment. Gee, I don't know, at a time when everything is chaos. Jim Bob, yeah, Canada Buddha or national anthem. Yeah. So the reason that, so that's getting a lot of controversy. And then this is just a sidebar, whatever. I don't even want to pay much attention to it because I did not read into it. But when Trump said, like, when he's inviting the hockey team, he says, guys, I got to invite the women too, or I'll be impeached, just so you know. And I am the last, you guys know, I am not some self-hating, woman with internalized misogyny. I did not read that much. I was like, whatever, who cares? It's not a thing. Like, it is not that big of a deal. I didn't at all read it as like, oh, talking down to the women. And I saw this like raw dog first thing in the morning without every pundit fucking getting all yapping in my ear. It reminded me, I felt like it was giving like 7th grade field trip, and the teacher's like, all right, guys, but the girls got to come along too. Like, it kind of reminded me of that, right? And like, they all laugh. I'm like, it's not that serious, but whatever. But the patriotism of it all, which Jim Bob is what you're getting at, in that, like, what a contrast to the lame anti-America woke athletes who will kneel during the national anthem, or even the Olympic competitors who will be like, I'm ashamed of the US, me, and this, like, all the teammates, again, Jack Hughes who lost his teeth and is now going viral, like, just Akash Patel, Trump, all of it, just pride for America and the patriotism and to represent the flag and how much they love America. I even loved in one of these locker room videos, like, they're all celebrating and then it pans up and you see on the ceiling an American flag. And I thought to myself, though, Taylor, you think that that's really cool. You love this country. You love what it represents. You love the freedom. You're patriotic. And there may be people out there who think it's cool to pull a whatever her name was, who, the Olympic athletes, again, who dog on America or shit on it or kneel during the national anthem. Like, they may think that that's about it and that's counterculture and that's cool. So keep that in your back pockets as we continue down this ice rink of glory, because, like, right in, to the goal here. Because again, I think that this is because it is subjective, but again, I do think that there is a bottom line of how to decipher cool and integrity and what ultimately impacts ideas and culture, right, moving forward. So this now brings me to Gavin Newsom, who recently was in a clip, it's circulating now, how he is saying, like, he's obviously trying to appeal and be more normal and sane and cool. Hey, John Legend, that's okay. There's a Be Kind Rewind. Don't worry. This shit's going to be on X and on YouTube. Better late than never. We are talking tonight all about, it's actually maybe a good time to reset. We're going to go a little over tonight, but that's all right. Like, you'd want to be anywhere else, other than being like that piece of Jack Hughes, like, broken tooth. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than with you here. But we're talking tonight, guys, about what everybody is chasing in power dynamics and influence in culture across politics, pop culture, tech, sports, and no one says out loud, which is being cool. So Gavin Newsom, as John Legend said, yes. So there's a clip of him being like, we need to become, and I quote, more culturally normal. And he proceeds to say, we should, step down. Like, we don't need to make I'm paraphrasing, but like, we don't need to make pronouns our hill to die on. And again, appealing to what won, I think, Trump this election, which is what is hitting the everyday person. What is spending on? Can we afford to live? Pricing, all that. So he acknowledges that, right? So again, and we see what he's doing. Like, we see how he's trying to, like, do this, like, mental jujitsu to appeal to the every person. It's like dodgeball. Like, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Like, let's see how it works out for him. But you also have Nicki Minaj, and this is how, like, what I said in the beginning, how pop culture used to make what was cool politically and relevant. Now it's the other way around, how politics determines. Like, the fact that, mainstream or leftists or liberals or whatever you want to call it, can't acknowledge, like, have to now like throw Nicki Minaj under the bus. Like she's this has been like, okay, she's almost literally she's only the most iconic female rapper ever who like what are we talking about? Who is aside from politics, like her art, her how like feminine and sexual and all that is literally about everything. Do you want to talk about feminism and music? Like what are we talking about? It's about everything you're about, right? So the fact that politics have now caused all these people to throw her under the bus, insane. But I thought this was so interesting because she calls out another recent Gavin. I just saw this on my feed before hopping on here, serendipitously. She calls out Gavin Newsom for another clip of him going viral in which he's essentially trying to appeal to Black people by being like, I'm as stupid as you guys are. It's giving like Joe Biden, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. And she calls it out because he's talking about like, I'm one of you guys. I'm the guy who had a 950 on his SATs, whatever. And she's basically like, are you guys okay with this? Because he's essentially trying to relate to you by saying he's also stupid and therein calling you stupid. Like, what? This is not it. And he's trying to, like a Joe Biden, trying to be cool and trying to like appeal to you. And like, is this like, does this make sense? Right. So I thought that was interesting because, here we have, again, Gavin Newsom being like, we need to be more cultural and normal and, appeal to the every person. And you have Nicki Minaj, who in my mind is like the epitome of cool. Before politics, I'm consistent. I've always been team Nicki. And in the end here, again, I am consistent. Maybe it'll all get to why. But hey guys, Jen. Hey, okay, so I'm gonna catch up on some of these comments before I get to the Super Bowl, and then start to wrap things up here because I think the Super Bowl was really, really telling. Oh, and one point I have here in my notes too, right, is like even taking AOC, like young people, Gen Z, think AOC is really cool. And there are parts about her I think are cool. I think it's cool that she some would argue is the American dream epitomized. She went from being a, struggling bartender. Listen, you can knock her, but she's smart enough to have managed to figure out how to become the most popular person in Congress and like the coolest and the most like social media savvy and relevant. Even if she is overseas and is fumbling her way over, like it's giving John Fetterman like a day post stroke. Like she can't even answer basic questions about foreign policy. Like asked about Taiwan, it is making Kamala Harris look like the queen of the spelling bee. Okay, here's AOC. Like, but meanwhile, it is the most like one of the most economically significant situations, events, like so much is predicated on in our tension with China, all of it. And she literally is like Helen Keller in a pirate ship trying to come up with some kind of answer. All of that to say, people may think AOC is cool. Okay. So that's what's interesting again is how it's all subjective. Okay, now before I get into the Super Bowl though, let me catch up here. Jim Bob. Gen Xers, the original counterculture. We made cool, we can destroy cool and still don't give an F. Wait, Jim Bob, are you a Gen X? Oh, Gen Xer, I'm sorry. Yes. I read that as Gen Zer. I was like, okay, I need Nikki. Nikki, help me on this verse because this is not make it make sense. This math ain't mathing. Yeah. Gen Xers, right. You guys, were very much counterculture, right? You were called the slackers, products of like divorce culture. And even like, I was thinking about this even when I'm getting into the conclusion here, but I think about like the Nirvanas and, who, yeah, were cool, like objectively cool. We're going to get back to this because I'm getting ahead of myself here. Why has news come out? Psych about dead. How are you today? I think that's what I'm good. How are you? I'm happy to be here all with you. And when you rewind, you'll see I wasn't originally going to do this set, but I think it needs to be said. Where's the check and balance? Says John Legend. Newscom is not mentally capable to hold public office. Where the branches check this idiot. Yeah, I actually talked about at a lower level than government is the LA mayor. And I talked about Spencer Pratt and that whole thing in my episode from Thursday. So check this out. Low IQ AOC. What are you talking about? If that's at me, Mason, Rosewell, I am talking about the struggle to be cool and how that's something that it may seem just like common sense and everyday vernacular thrown around or like cool, like a no-brainer, but how it actually is like underneath everything in power and in relevance. So across the board. Okay, so we're running a little bit out of time, but that's all good. I'm just honoring, ride or die John Legend, who was a little fashionably late. That's okay. So I'm gonna bend the rules. And as far as like the comments here with Gavin Newsom and AOC and all these people having a low IQ, AOC aside, I actually think Gavin Newsom is a smart guy. I just think that he is like establishment, but trying to be an outsider. And I think he's opportunistic and I don't know. Again, we will see if it pans out for him. I don't think he's stupid though. I think he's very calculated. But anyways, that's another story. Enough about Gav. So, okay. So when it comes to being cool and we're at all the intersection, where it all collides, right? Sports and politics and all this is, I never talked about this on the show, but was the Super Bowl halftime. And the reason I bring it to this before we move on is because I thought you literally like what these people have done was basically completely make caricatures of themselves on both extremes and bring the stereotypes to life. Okay. You literally had the NFL obviously making this like leftist play. And let's be real, guys, they are a marketing machine. They see one color and it's green. And I didn't even mean for that to rhyme, but it just rolls right off the tongue. So they're going, how can we appeal to Latino viewers who wouldn't normally be into sports? Oh, Bad Bunny. One of the biggest artists in the world. Perfect. Like, whatever. Maybe now they'll tune in. Like Taylor Swift held it down for the white girls. Now we're gonna get Puerto Rico, Central South America up in this bitch. Whether they like football or not, right? But the fact that like not one word was in English, and it played the whole thing. Like you saw the grandpas, you saw the wedding, you saw the girls in the nail salon. I was like, they're hitting all the notes here. Was I entertained? Sure. Was I mad that it wasn't in English? I could care less. It is what it is. Again, I was just laughing. It's like, wow, they've literally like made a caricature of themselves just as Turning Point did. I was like, this literally couldn't be more cliche. Like, why is Kid Rock always the like token quote unquote cool guy for the right? And I remember saying to a friend of mine, it's too bad that they couldn't get like a mainstream Nicki Minaj or like a mainstream pop person, right? Because again, it falls right into that caricature. It's like country people no one knows and then Kid Rock. So they said to me, and this is like indicative of this whole thing. Who's calling me right now? Oh, Tom from Miss USA, who was on the show recently. I'll call him back. Nice to meet you too, Mason. Glad to have you here. Stick around, enjoy the ride. I turned to my friend, and when I said that, it's too bad they couldn't get anybody like mainstream because this just falls right into the stereotype because now it's just silly, right? How it's become so polarized and opposite, like just to do it. He said to me, even if they did, it wouldn't matter. Like, even if they did, it wouldn't matter. And I was like, man, and we were talking about the Bad Bunny thing and all of it. And he said to me, like, again, that's what's so interesting. Like, the juxtaposition of Gavin Newsom being like, we need to be more culturally cool and culturally normal, as he put it. But with the reality, and even what my friend said that day, which is like, how is it that, the left still dominates what is cool in pop culture, i.e. Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl? Like, no matter how retarded Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were, no matter how many word salads AOC does, like drowning out here, like trying to stay afloat for dear life, no matter what it is, like they still somehow remain cool. Think of all of Hollywood. Literally, the Grammys we just watched was like the woke parade of our purgatory nightmares. So they still somehow remain. And I don't know if that's just because it goes so far back and how incestual it is with media and corporations and, politics, how it's always been like progressive, but now it's not even progressive. It's just like obnoxious, which Gavin Newsom's getting at. So I don't know if it's just historically, but it's wild that he's kind of right. Like, no matter, even like this Team USA and the call with like Kash Patel chugging a beer and Trump and Kash being like, I'm fucking on it, and how American and whatever. It's like, to the majority of media and the left and all this, it's like, it still won't be cool. And so I thought that was so interesting. Like, the Super Bowl is a perfect microcosm of that. And again, it brings me back to who dictates. It's not just young people, it is politics now. And really thinking about, like, why is, like, no matter how hard the right tries, like Trump and this person, they can drop F-bombs and not give a shit, and Nicki Minaj and all this, it's like they still can't be as like cool for all intents and purposes. And that brings me back to, again, like, with all of this, just like someone could have thought that Bad Bunny was the coolest thing ever, there are people like Jims and Bobs and all kinds of John Legends and whoever out there who thought Kid Rock was, just as cool and cooler. So, it's kind of twofold, like how it is, of course, subjective, and there's yin and every yang. So if you think something like an AOC or a Bad Bunny, or on the other side, a Kid Rock could never be cool, well, there's someone who thinks the opposite and thinks it is. But what's dictating it on the big stage, no pun intended, and big picture, that has like a chokehold on the culture? And somehow, some way, the left has maintained to just be culturally, pop culture, whatever you want to call it, cooler. We'll see what changes there. And the last kind of thing that I want to get at here is tech, because this is just kind of a fun anecdotal story, right? Because you guys know I've been doing more and more in the tech world, and, really trying to be ahead of the curve, and, hosting at these conferences and interviewing these tech titans and developers and CEOs, what have you. And you guys know, like, my speed, right? So what I do that has these Silicon Valley bros in their hoodies in a tailspin is come in like Barbie, braless, but going toe to toe and knowing my shit on the tech side, but further making the conversations like actually interesting in places, they never, like, going places they never normally get to, but that still makes sense to them. So it's funny because I actually had a conversation with a big conference happening later this year, a tech conference, and they've had like Peter Thiel, like they've had huge people. I think Grant Cardone come out, and the guy who co-founded it, I don't know if this is off the record, but whatever. You guys know, like, what you see is what you get. I'm just an open book here. And the guy who co-created it was like, I love this. Yes. Like, talk to me, Taylor. Barbie, come in. And we, he was like, we want to, again, make it cool. Like, it's just invaluable. Like, help make us cool, period. And lo and behold, and I was like, let's do it. Like, I'm psyched. It needs a breath of fresh air. Like, let's go. The tech guys can talk with each other till they're blue in the face, but what is going to make it relevant? Pop culture cool. And he came back to me and he's like, I talked to the board. Mind you, it's a bunch of like old white men, and they're a little old school. And so, we have to kind of massage it and let's just kind of see, right? So I thought that was so interesting. And you know me, I'm so not a like old white man, ruin everything, man person. But what a real life case study, if you will, of the counterculture, Jim Bob, as you put it, and what's known. And so that, because, right, you can't put a price on cool. It's just, and you can't quite articulate or explain it, which is part of what makes it so cool, on the nose there. But as we wrap all this up, I really want to think about, what is cool? And, dovetailing out of the tech part is I thought like Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, and I even Googled it. I was like, was he considered cool when he was alive? And he really was, because he was out of the box. He had that sort of bohemian thing going on, and he was really purely counterculture. The turtleneck every day, the didn't give a fuckness of it, and how he was really about what he discovered so brilliantly was making tech private and just quite literally yours, like another arm, an extension of you, like in your pocket, right? But really the privacy aspect, but really how he was counterculture against the establishment. And it made me think about the interview that I had a couple months ago with Pavan Agarwal, who is the founder of Angel AI. And he's like a tech billionaire genius. And he talked about that. He's like, Silicon Valley used to be cool. Now it's establishment. Like they used to break the rules. They used to be the rebels. And I thought, right, is there something about being cool that is just intuitively and inherently counterculture? And that's why people get their panties in their wad, clutch their pearls, and have those hockey sticks up their butts, because it disrupts what makes them feel safe, the status quo, what they're used to, you know? It's also worth thinking about, we talked about the beauty of cool being objective, but also how cool is often not appreciated or recognized until much later. Might I remind you of my fave example, but Van Gogh, who died poor, misunderstood, lonely, broken, and became arguably the most artist in the world, right, post-death. But even things like cult classics, like Rocky Horror Picture Show was like freakish and weird at the time. Now a cult classic. If you want to go biblical, I was listening to a podcast today and I actually started reading the New Testament. Jesus himself, you want to talk about cool? You want to talk about having impact, right? And at the time versus now and later, right? In retrospect. So sometimes we don't always see it at the time. And that's where I really want to end this today, because can we appreciate cool regardless of who it's coming from or if we even agree, right? I think a great example of this for me personally, and I had her on the show recently after she made headlines again at the Grammys, but Joy Villa, a friend of mine. Now, I don't agree, and she knows this, I don't agree with Joy politically on every point, but I can objectively appreciate that she is so cool. She does not give a single shit, and I love that. And so that's what I really think. Again, the show here is the end all be all to everything ever. But what cool is. And I really think that it is truly not giving a single fuck. And again, I can appreciate it even like screamo music or whatever it is, like things that I don't particularly like or enjoy or agree with, but I'm like, they are about it and they don't give a fuck. And that's why I think, when it comes to the Newsomes or the Olympic athletes hating on the states, like, is that cool? Because you can also, I think you can so tell when it's fake or when it's performative, or what we see with a lot of influencers, guys, I'm not even going to lie, people that I know, when they like need the validation. I feel like that is the single, like, categorically uncool thing. Is when you need the validation versus being like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I don't give a shit who thinks what about it. And it is so obvious and it is so apparent. So to really think about how the cool factor impacts everything underneath all these dynamics and struggles we're seeing. B, how things are subjectively cool, how we may not see it at the time. And, and C, if it's that kind of like, I don't give a fuck regardless of the feedback, the reviews, the critique, the outcome versus like performative and fake and needing that validation, right? And so I want to leave you guys with that today with two things. Don't ignore cool when it's looking you right in the face. And if something is deemed cool, and you have a strong reaction to it one way or the other, ask yourself why. And with that, I leave you with some things to think about. Write me, beat me, page me. And until then, all you cool cats, you all know you're cool because you listen to this show. So that goes without saying. And to remain cool, be one of the cool kids in the Cool Kids Club, you best bring your ass here on Thursday. I'll see you then. Thank you guys for tuning along. All of you guys, old and new, good to see you. Stay cool. See you Thursday. Chris, how was your pee break?
My pee break?
They might flash you undetected.
Random, baby.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. Quite an intro.
Cute.
Let's address the elephant in the room. That's not the elephant in the room. There's no elephant. Nobody cares.
I too am a thought criminal. Good. Well, I like you
Does
already.
this look like a girl who's joking around? messing around?
But how much do you actually understand money, especially the new wave?
Beauty or intelligence? When you unleash both, it is men's kryptonite. Welcome